Hi guys. I'm gonna tell you a little bit about this motorcycle. I was having it for 6 years now, and I like to share my honest thoughts on the good and the bad of owning a Kawasaki Vulcan Voyager. After 6 years, I have a mileage of 23,700 kilometers. This is an average of 4,000 kilometers per year. Doesn't sound so much. But in the first couple of years, I was using the bike to go to work. But after COVID, I was working from home, so no more commuting. So most of this mileage was done in the first 2 years. Now I'm using it just occasionally. First, let's talk about the good. It was the most affordable motorcycle in its class of heavy cruisers at the time. I bought it in 2019. It has cruise control, a feature I use and appreciate on every long trip. The large windshield provides excellent protection from the elements. The suspension is very good, especially the rear adjustable system. Both the front and the rear seats are exceptionally comfortable, which is essential, at least for me. The luggage space with top and side cases is ample and very important for me. I always have rain gear, I have water, I have gloves, I have all kind of stuff that it's necessary, not to be surprised on the trip. The mirrors are well positioned and give a clear view. It's incredibly stable, even when riding in strong crosswinds. The riding position is comfortable for long trips, a feature I cannot emphasize enough. I have two bikes. I have another bike as well, which is a Honda CBF 600, and that is not so comfortable. It's a very good bike, but in terms of comfort, the Kawasaki, it's the most comfortable. You can ride long time, many hours on this bike. Now the bad. The bike is very heavy, which makes it extremely difficult to lift if it ever tips over. This is partially because the chassis is made of cast iron and steel with no aluminum like other bikes. Also the turn radius, it's big. So if you want to turn around like a U-turn in a street with two lanes, very hard. You have to stop, go back and forth like a car. Some of the plastic trim pieces and ornaments make noise while riding because they are not securely fastened and tend to vibrate. The cruise control sometimes, most of the times, stops working. I found that I have to stop, turn the bike off, and turn it back on to reset it. I suspect this is due to some unprotected micro switches that get filled with mud and dust. Another sensitive part exposed to the elements, it's a rod that pushes the clutch. Mud and dust easily get into this area because the designer of this bike didn't bother to put a cover, a piece of metal sheet. That's all you need there. It's under the bike to protect that rod. That rod is very special part. The finish of that rod, it's rectified. It's very, very fine. So it goes through rubber sealing into the hydraulic system. because the dust and the mud goes on this rod, this sends the dust and the mud and all kind of impurities into the into the clutch hydraulic system. So you have to clean the system, replace the hydraulic fluid, remove the air from the system, which is quite a bit of work. For this reason, I try to avoid riding in the rain. Every 2 years, I change the tires. While the front wheel it's easy to remove, the rear tire it's a real pain. You have to disassemble the side cases, the exhaust pipes, the rear brake, the transmission belt. At a dry weight of 433 kilograms, you need the hydraulic jack and stands to do this work. It takes quite a few hours. Of course, you take the wheels to the shop, they will change the tires, balance them, you bring them back home, while the bike it's in the middle of the garage, standing on those stands. You cannot do anything in the garage during that time. You put back the wheels, and yeah, you can move the bike, but anyway, it's a pain. When changing the oil filter it's in a very tight spot with no room to access it. I've gotten used to this now, and I have the right tools, but it's still not an easy job. Finally, the bike it's underpowered. For a half-ton bike, 75 horsepower is not enough. The bike in the same class, they have around 125 horsepower, and they are lighter. This one, I guess it's one of the heaviest, but you can still go comfortable with 130 kilometers per hour on the freeway. It goes up to 160. I didn't try to push it to 200. They say in the manual that it can go to up to 200, but I didn't try it, honestly. Yeah, so that's about it about the bike. It's generally speaking, I'm happy with the bike. I will not buy another bike in this class. I will keep this bike probably until the end of my life. It's reliable enough, and the Honda I have just the same. The Honda it's actually more reliable than this Kawasaki, but that's good enough for me. I don't put a lot of mileage, so that's it. Thank you for watching this video. By the way, please subscribe and hit the like button. This really helps me if you think that the information you got with this video it's useful for you. Thank you.